lack of a cold start. Alright guys, how the heck are ya? And it's time for another video. Unfortunately, I don't have the GoPro charged today. That thing has just been on the fritz lately, so we're just gonna do the traditional in the car vlog style. So the topic of today is going to be the points of the car that you own or will buy or want to buy or whatever. In other words, when you buy a car, it's really useful and important to have an idea of what the point of that car is going to be. I know that sounds really obvious, like kind of right off the bat, generally speaking. Like if I want a truck, obviously I'm going to be hauling stuff and maybe doing a little bit of off-roading. Or if I want a Raptor, I want to have like a badass truck that's fast and looks amazing. I want to talk about this M3. So you guys, most of the people on this channel are following it and subscribing because of my E92 M3. And I do get a lot of comments, especially because I had an E92 335i same year. It was a 2011, it was a manual, it was an M Sport package. So as a non-M car, it was pretty much spec'd as close to an M3 as you can get as far as looks wise, performance wise, besides the 335IS, which is a little bit higher horsepower and has a little has a different bumper and stuff like that. I get a decent amount of comments that from people that don't seem to understand sort of the point of my car. And you can say, oh, the points of your car is a sports car, it sounds good, and it's an M3, and it's good on the track, but you can drive it around a lot if you want. And that is true, but I want to get you guys to understand, and if there's anyone here that makes those comments, maybe this can be me explaining to you. Sorry, that was my blender bottle fell over. Sometimes I put it in the cup holder, but it rattles a little bit, and I don't want. If you compare the 335 to the M3, one of the biggest things is the expense of the mods and also the performance you get for those mods. And with the turbo car, well, the new M3s as well, any car that's a turbo, any money that you spend is usually going to go a lot further than if you spend money on like a naturally aspirated V8. And that's like with any car. You get the sound of the V8 and you kind of get, you know, the torque curve and the horsepower, the way that all the power comes on, very specific to the V8, where you get maybe a lot more with the 335, but it's still a different experience, although it may be faster. So I get a few comments here and there that are really just saying, well, I have this turboed 335 that makes 845 horsepower and I would smoke your M3 for half the price. And yes, I believe you, and yes, I know that there's a lot of those cars out there, but that is not even a question in my mind when I bought this car. I don't care. You're driving around a 335 with power that you can't even control, no limited slip dip, body doesn't look as nice. I bought my M3 not to be the fastest car. Although I did do a tune and I did some exhaust work that does make it faster, I'm not trying to make this a drag car. I bought the manual, the dual clutch is faster, especially with me shifting. So really what I want to sort of relay to you guys is the fact that I bought this car to drive the mountains when I go to the Smoky Mountain, not for super performance like with the new F80s. I mean, I was talking to my friend Mike, and obviously you can get you know, with E85 and even turbos or any tune really, I mean, you're gonna get a lot of performance. And really there's a certain point where the performance almost becomes pointless unless you're just going for huge power just because, and that's fine. But really what I'm trying to get at is the point of my M3 is not supposed to be super fast. I mean, the BMW rates it, I believe, around 4.5 seconds, 0 to 60 or so, which is no slouch. I mean, it's going to be faster than most cars that are kind of driving around on the road, but it's not really like, it's not something that I'm worried about. It's not the point of this car. Where my good buddy Travis, who has a supercharged M3, dual clutch, lots of performance mods obviously done, and it's an amazing machine, very fast, especially on the highway. His car has a totally different point than my car, and it's not that one is greater than the other. I mean, his is obviously a lot faster, so it's greater in that aspect. But as far as mine, I mean, I can daily drive it. I don't have any heating issues. The performance is there. The power is very manageable. I don't have to worry about, you know, like the Hellcats have 700 horsepower, and then the Demons have 800 horsepower. I mean, you have these cars that have so much horsepower, you can't even use them, where if you have my car or an E46 M3 or something that's more balanced. This Prius driver's trying to race me over here. If you have a car that you can really utilize the entire power band, and it's balanced and it feels engaging to drive, I mean, that's what I wanted. If I wanted a super fast car and to tune it with very little money, I would have bought another 335. And I would have done, you know, turbo or whatever, and you can do limited slip diff, obviously, but then you're doing all these things that are making it not what it originally was. And I wanted something to keep it very similar to the car it is now. And what I really love is, especially other people sort of reiterate this when sometimes I forget, when I'm like, man, my car, you know, I hang out with a couple M4s and I'm like, well, Jesus Christ, this car is slow. You know, it's amazing how much faster the new M3s and M4s are, but that's not the point. You have to forget about that. You have to remember why you bought the car and why you like it. And if, as long as those two things are true, then you shouldn't be upset. So the point of my car and why I got it and why it's the certain spec that it is I wanted a clean, low mileage, dailyable, nice M3. I didn't want something that I was going to mod uncontrollably. I didn't want something that I was going to be drifting around a track. And those two things are completely fine. I mean, those two things are fun, awesome, but it's not really the car. I wanted something that was going to be, especially now, I mean, to be honest with you guys, holding its value. A little while back, I pretty much got offered from a dealer the same price as what I paid for it, you know, within like $1,000, and that's pretty good after putting, you know, 7,000 miles on it at the time. So this car is, you know, if I keep it long enough, I'll get a lot of money out of it that, you know, I really paid for it initially, which is a great feeling. If you guys didn't know, I mean, obviously, I did a tune. So really, I always think I like this car's OEM plus. So it's OEM, a lot of OEM things about it, but the things that I think BMW did not do a good enough job on, for example, the exhaust. When I first heard a stock E92 M3 start up, revving, driving, I test drove one and I sat in a few and I'm like, is this a joke? I mean, yeah, it's a lot louder than like a regular 3 Series, I guess, but I just could tell, like, in my brain, I knew that there's so much more, especially after hearing other cars that were tuned or exhaust videos or whatever. And I'm not normally an exhaust guy. I don't normally want to go crazy over exhaust. I'm usually pretty extremely boring, but even with my 335, I did I did downpipes on that, and I did test pipes on this with the exhaust mod, and it is a little bit crazy loud when I'm really, really on it. But like right now, you know, we're driving around and there's no drone. You can hear it enough, but in a stock M3, it just makes me hate the car. I probably would have sold it if there was no way to make it sound better, to be completely honest with you guys. That's how much it frustrates me that they didn't do as much as they could. But you know, there's EPA, there's all this crap, whatever. That's how it is most of the case. You have to do a couple little tweaks. So I think OEM plus a couple of tweaks will get any car kind of a lot better, to the point where it should be performing and sounding and all this stuff how it should, in my opinion. The other thing is a few little carbon fiber bits. I did splitters, for example. I did the Lux lights, and I did the tune. Those are really the biggest mods. I mean, I have the blacked out little side markers instead of chrome, because chrome on this car, I mean, there's really very little chrome on it, and it looks weird. I mean, I don't really think of chrome on a sports car as making sense, unless maybe it's maybe an Aston Martin or some sort of GT car. It's 47 degrees and the tires are getting a little bit worn, so I'm slipping. It's letting me slip. M dynamic mode is. So, but anyways, yeah, so I did a bunch of those mods. I mean, obviously there's some discounts you guys can get on the Lux lights as well as the tune. The tune I wouldn't say transform the car, but it really makes it more mature. It feels like I can control it better, which sounds kind of weird, but like the way that the power comes on, it doesn't sort of lag. It doesn't make you wring the complete piss out of it. It still makes you wring the piss out of it, but it's not as bad as it was before, especially the torque. I think torque, I don't even know how much the torque actually changed, and I will be getting this thing dyno tested. I will throw this thing on the dyno at some point in hopefully the next few months. But yeah, so that is a few of the tweaks that I did. Oh, I did spacers. That is one of the biggest and cheapest. I think it was like $120 for spacers. If you keep the OEM wheels, they're the ZCP competition pack wheels, those wheels, if you get spacers and you get a little bit nicer of a stance, like completely flush, like the front are as flush as possible, and they're not sticking out or anything like the Jeep does a little bit. I don't want any poke on this car. It wouldn't look normal. But the stock wheels, I think definitely they looked weird. Like they definitely need spacers, otherwise it looks funny. Really haven't put a ton of money in this car because I don't think it needs it and I don't want to. An intake is fine, but you're not going to get much out of it. But yeah, generally speaking, oh, I did order a lit F10 M5 shift knob for this M3 because I think that is definitely some improvement. I have something that I like to call the broomstick shifter because it's so goddamn tall. The shift is long enough as it is. It's actually, in my opinion, too long. I would appreciate, you know, a little lower shifts, shorter shifts. Yeah, and like even downshifting with the tune is, I swear to God, it's easier. So anyways, so that is sort of the gist. When you buy a car, have an idea of what you want to do to it. Obviously that can change, and obviously it changes a lot. Like with my Jeep, I didn't want to do anything to it when I bought it because I didn't want to put any money into it. But I needed wheels, it needed a little bit of a lift to lift it up, get it level, get it a little bit higher, and the roof basket kind of makes it look sort of Safari, Utah-like or whatever, and it needed an infotainment system upgrade badly, and you know, that kind of thing. So I like to do the OEM Plus, keep it kind of pretty real. If I had a project car or the time, money, and space, I would do like a, you know, sort of a more intense build. But I don't really have a build. I just have a car that I've modded a few things that I think need tweaks, and that's it. So I hope that makes sense to you guys. I think, I know it's sort of like a little bit of rambling, but it kind of gets you thinking. If you're looking for a car, if you currently have a car, you're like, what is the point of this car? Is it a lease that I just could care less about? And that's fine. You know, you don't have to have some crazy build to be, you know, a car guy or girl or whatever. You know, you can just enjoy it for what it is. And that's completely fine. You can say, I don't want to do any mods. Shoot! I think that's gonna do it. Thank you so much for watching. Info is below. If you're interested in discounts on Lux lights, can get you 10 bucks off. If you're interested in 10% off the BPM Sport Tune, which is highly customizable, you can just literally allocate every single thing you want for it, which is amazing. It has a DCT tune as well if you have the DCT, which I've heard extremely good things about that, transforming the DCT car. So check into that. I know there's a lot of videos and write-ups about that. But thank you for watching, and I will see you guys next time.